At each turn when the conscience is ignored, sin is given just a open door. Come on in. Come on in. That's what it is in your life and mine. When the conscience is ignored, you're just opening the door. You're like, bring it on through, you know. How much sin can we get through the door before nightfall? Let's just bring it on in. The multiplication of sin when conscience is ignored is also on full display. And note this, interestingly, in your own spiritual lives, your conscience and what we call temptation, these are directly in conflict with each other. Neither one on their own merits is good or bad. They are just, they are simply forerunners. They are kind of telling you what may come. And we must remember that if you don't close the door when your conscience speaks, if you don't, like when that door opens and you see that a rush of sin could come, if you don't shut the door, sin always runs wild. We have some relatives in Texas, and one of them owns a wild hog ranch. Now, I don't know if you know much about wild hogs, but they are insane creatures. They really are. They are basically, they're demonic, you know. They're very stout. These wild pigs, they run in packs. They go extremely fast, 30, 40 miles an hour. They have, I don't know if you've ever heard of a razorback, like an Arkansas razorback. That's a wild hog, basically. And they keep their tusks, right? They come out of the sides there. That's probably a pretty good impression. Maybe a little closer in. They keep their tusks very low to the ground. Like, they don't attack their prey by like jumping on. They're not like tigers or lions, in order to get the neck or whatever. Their tusks are low, and there's a reason for this, is that when they attack and they attack in packs, they go by the feet of the animals or humans sometimes, and they try to get at the main arteries in the ankle. And because once you get your prey just bleeding out, there's just no chance. And as a pack, they then come back again and again, again and again, until the prey bleeds out and is dead. And then they devour it. And that is what happens in your life and mine when we don't heed the voice of the conscience. You're opening the door, and what comes through? Not like a cat, not a domestic dog, no, a herd of wild pigs intent on cutting you however they can. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 20 says this of hell and destruction, that they are never full. It doesn't have a kind of, that's enough, let's close it. We've done enough, we've had enough sin for the day. It never stops itself. Hell and destruction are never full. Proverbs chapter 30, verse 15 says this talking about the creature of the leech. It says, the leech has two daughters, give and give. The implication being that it doesn't have a that's enough phase. It always wants more. And that's why we have the conscience. A device that basically is there to tell us that's enough. Stop. Hold on. Because this other thing, as it runs through, has no such stop mechanism. Often at industries, in places where there's a lot of heavy machinery and stuff, there usually is on the wall a giant red button. It's kind of an emergency shut-off valve. Like if anything goes wrong, like somebody's hand gets stuck, and then sometimes you hear about like farming accidents that happen, or within maybe a large industry, whether it's a refinery or a place where they're melting metals or glass blowing, and it's just like if anything goes wrong, well, that doesn't exist. It does not exist for the world of sin. The conscience is the only thing. The conscience aided by the Holy Spirit, informed by the Holy Spirit, given its voice by the Holy Spirit, blessed with power by the Holy Spirit is the only thing. That's all you've got. You may have friends in your life that will comment on things that are going on. You may have family that will pull you aside. And be thankful if you do have those people. I'm thankful for those people in my life. But I'm even more thankful for the conscience, because I have been gifted a voice that will help me to close the door. And though you may rely on these other people at times to help you and to recognize that, you and I both know the conscience speaks all the time about these things. And when the conscience is ignored, what happens is not only the running of the pigs, not the running of the bulls, that's a completely different thing, and that's in Spain. This is different. No, when the conscience is ignored, the voices of influence, they become unbalanced. And please hear me quickly. The voice of the Lord, when the conscience is ignored, its volume, if you will kind of be diminished. And the value and the influence of human voices will come up. What is supposed to be this in your life, that the voice of the Lord is the kind of prominent, the kind of the top of the hierarchical chain. And the voices of man, you don't ignore them, but as far as their importance or what you heed or follow, this is supposed to be the order, especially for the child who calls himself a believer, a follower of Jesus Christ. This is supposed to be the order. And as soon as you begin to not hear and listen to the conscience, this is happening. And you may not know it until this begins to happen. And you see how far down the road you get. And pretty soon the opinions of whomever, some guy on YouTube, begins to sound, that sounds good. Yeah. And this, not really hearing this very much. You can't stop what voices you will hear, guys. You can't. But you can make sure that you keep a strict hierarchy of which voice is best and which voice is highest in wisdom and power.